This conference will now be recorded.
So before I start today's session, again, I don't want to repeat this again and again, but I see day by day the attendance is getting decreased. Like when I was teaching AWS, I see approximately 80 people, 85 people. Gradually, it has decreased to 50 guys now, less than 50. As I already told multiple times, all these topics are important. You cannot become a DevOps engineer if you know only Linux. You cannot become a DevOps engineer if you know only till Jenkins. These topics are more important than whatever has been discussed, and these topics, these tools are, trending tools in the DevOps tech stack. This Docker, Kubernetes is very, very important. It's most demanding tools in the DevOps market. So if you don't attend, you don't learn, if you don't practice, if you don't do the assignments, it's very difficult for you to get a job as a DevOps engineer. So we will not entertain again and again. If you attend now, you will get a benefit. Otherwise, we will not entertain like multiple times these people. So it's up to you now whether you want to become a DevOps engineer. You must attend all the classes. Everyone is a professional, but I don't want to repeat this. It's doesn't matter for me whether I have one student in my class, whether I have 100 students in my class. I will deliver whatever I wanted to deliver. There is no changes. The way I will deliver the content, whether it's 100 people in the class, whether it's two people, same way. But you are going to lose that opportunity if you don't attend. We are trying to deliver more than whatever we committed. We are trying to give more than 100% of what we committed. But you guys are hardly, doing 10% of your commitment. So that I don't want to repeat this again, but you will lose these opportunities if you don't attend. That's it. Simple. Let's continue. We were discussing about container comments. Guys, one more thing I wanted to tell you. Our students, lot of students are getting the job. Do you know who is getting the job? Right? The guys who is continuously attending all the classes from the day one and till the end of the course, even after 4.5 months, whoever is attending, that guy is only getting the job, not like irregulars. Because each and every topic is important in these DevOps tools. Interviewer can ask any question, and if you don't attend all the classes, if you don't do the practice, you cannot crack the job, right? So our students are getting the job, but who? The guys who are attending till end of the session is only getting the job. Not like people till attending Jenkins, till attending Docker. Their chances are less. They're getting the jobs, but for them it is taking years also. Even after completing the course, after 1 year also, people are still struggling to get the job because they are not regular students. They have not done the assignments, they have not practiced. How they will get the job? So that's why we are saying attendance is mandatory. Assignments are mandatory. If you don't commit to that one, we can't help more than this. I don't want to repeat this again because it's everyone is a professional. I hope you understand why we are repeating this much again and again. It's for your benefit only. It's not for my benefit, right? Do I need to shout more than this if there are 100 people in my class, or do I need to shout less or teach less if I have one student in my class? No, I will do same thing even though 100 students are there or one student is there, same commitment. But you are going to lose the benefit. Okay, let's continue. Yesterday we were discussing about container commands. What is difference between Docker create and a Docker run, as we discussed yesterday? Create will only create the container. It will only create. It won't start the container. This Docker run, it will create and start. It will create and start. If I want to start the container, what command I have to use? If I want to start the container, what command I have to use? Docker start container ID or name. Now, the way we have a Docker start, can I stop the container also if required? Like this? Yes. So, similarly, we have a restart also. What this Docker restart does? What this Docker restart does? It is like stop and start. It is like stop and start. It does both. Now, if I just stop the container, does it mean, is it going to delete the container from that system? It will just stop the container. If I stop the container again, how to start again? Do I need to again execute Docker create or Docker run? No. Can I just execute this Docker start command? If the container is there and it is in start state, I can do this. Only start. Now we can do the restart also if required. Now, if I want to remove the container completely from the system, Docker RM, not RMI. RMI is for image, RM for container. So Docker RM, what is the input for this? Container ID or name. Container ID or name. Now, if the container is in running state, does this RM will remove the container? No. In that case, do I need to stop the container and again execute Docker RM? Yes. I need to stop the container, then execute Docker RM. Otherwise, can I use -F, force removal, even though it is in running state? Yes, I can do this. Now, how to delete multiple containers? Can I do like this? Multiple containers. If I want to remove all the containers, can I do like this? If I want to remove all the containers, can I do like this? All the containers. If I want to remove only stopped containers, I want to remove only stopped containers, then only stopped containers. Can I execute Docker container prune like this? Yes. If required, can I use filters also here? The way we used filters for filtering the dangling images, can I use filters also here to filter only stopped containers? -F status equals to exited, something like this. Status equals to exited. If I do like this also, we are trying to get all the containers, all the container IDs, but because of this option, is it going to filter only stopped containers, which means is it going to return only stopped container IDs? Yes, let me show that. Let me connect to my machine, maybe this machine where I have some containers. Let me connect to this machine where I have some containers. Docker ps ps-a. Let's say I have some container stopped. I am stopping this container. Now Docker ps, is it returning all? No, it is returning only running. If I want to see all, -a. Can I use this one also? The way I use Docker ps-a, can I use Docker container ls-a also? Yes. It is returning all. Now what this queue does? If I use queue, what it is doing? Only IDs. Only IDs. Now, can I apply filter like this? Status equals to exited. Now, even though I am saying all, -f status equals to exited, which means is it returning only the stopped container IDs? Can I use like this? If I want to remove stopped containers, the way I am doing container view, same thing can be done like this. But this -f is required if it is only stopped containers. Is it mandatory? No. Even though I give -f, will it throw any error? Even though I give -f, will it throw any error? No. So this is how you can remove the stopped containers. Now I can start if required. I can start that container if required by executing docker start command. Now the container is in running state. Now if I do the docker restart, that container ID or name, is it going to do stop and start? Yes. Now, sometimes in the interview also they are asking one question. What is the difference between docker stop and docker kill? There is one more command. The way we have a docker stop command, there is another command called a docker kill. What is the difference? The way we have a docker stop, we have a docker kill also. Anyone has any idea what this kill does, what that stop does? So stop will stop, kill will, what it is going to do? Both are doing the same thing. It is not going to delete. Even though I use the docker kill, it is not going to delete. Even though I am using docker kill, it is not going to delete. So just guess. Linux process. You know what is Linux process, what is a kill command, what is kill -9. You already know all these things, I guess. Based on that, you can understand. So there are two things here: sig termination, sig kill. Sig termination, sig kill, signal kill. There are two things here. So when we execute docker stop command, when we execute docker stop command, it is going to issue. It will issue in the sense it will send. It will send sig termination signal to the main process, which is running in the container. Main process inside the container. So this is going to issue signal termination. When we use docker stop, when we use docker kill, it will issue directly this sig kill. So what is the difference between signal termination and signal kill? It is nothing to do with the Docker. It's a process. So what is the difference between sig term and sig kill? This signal termination, it is going to gracefully stop the process. It is going to gracefully stop the process. So if I use Docker kill, is it going to forcefully terminate? Is it going to forcefully kill this process? This sig kill is like forcefully killing the process. So if I use Docker stop command, is it going to stop the process, the container process, the process inside, running inside the container? Is it going to gracefully stop that process? That yes. If I use Docker kill, is it going to forcefully kill the process running inside the container? For some reason, when you are executing Docker stop, your container is not getting stopped. In that case, can I use this Docker kill, which will forcefully kill the process? So this is sometimes in the interview also they are asking. Is everyone clear now? What is difference between Docker stop and a Docker kill? This is also very important interview question. So Docker stop will issue signal termination, sig term signal to the process inside the container, which will gracefully stop the process. If I use Docker kill, is it going to forcefully kill the process without any grace period, grace time to shut down that process or to stop that process gracefully? It will kill that. Something like this. The way I'm executing, now I can use Docker kill, something like this. Now if I use this Docker kill, is it going to kill the process which is running inside the container without grace period, grace time? Yes. If you see, is that container is deleted even though I use kill? Is that container is deleted? No. Now, if required, can I start that again by using Docker start? Whatever container I have killed, can I start that again like this? Yes. So that is how it works. Docker stop and a Docker kill. Sometimes in the interview, they're asking one more question. Can we have more than one process running inside a container? Sometimes in the interview also they are asking this question. Can we have more than one process running inside a container? Yes, no. Can I have more than one process running inside the container? What is the meaning of process? Process is nothing but some kind of application, which means can I have Java process? I mean to say Tomcat process running on top of Java. If required, can I have maybe database process also running in same container, DB process like MySQL process or MongoDB process like that? Is it possible to have more than one container? Can I have more than one process running inside the container? Yes, technically it's possible, but is it recommended? Technically it's possible, but is it recommended to have more than one process running inside a container? But it's not recommended. Why it is not recommended? What is the whole purpose of containerization? Why we are going for containers? Not for HA. High availability can be achieved in your system also. The whole purpose of containerization is I want to isolate. Isolation. You can achieve better application performance also, other things also directly in the virtual machines. Can I have multiple servers where I can deploy my application? Can I make sure my application is highly available even though I am using servers? Yes. The whole purpose of containers is isolation. The whole purpose of containers is isolation. Using containers, am I able to isolate one application from other? Application is nothing but process. Am I able to isolate one process from other? Java is one process. Database is one process. SSH also is kind of one process. Nexus is one process. So I can isolate. The whole purpose we are going for containers is isolating. If I run more than one process in a same container, does one process will impact other process since they are sharing same network space, process area, storage area? If there is change in one application, if I try to deploy that application, does the other application also will be stopped? Does other process running in the container also will be stopped if I delete the container? Yes. So is it recommended to run more than one process inside the container? Even though it is possible? No. Is everyone clear? Sometimes these type of questions also you are getting. Can we have more than one process running inside a container? Technically, yes, but it's not recommended. Now, let's try to understand few more comments. The way we have a Docker stop, a Docker start, a Docker kill, Docker restart. Similarly, we have a few more comments which we are not going to use at all, but let me discuss here. Docker pause and unpause. What these commands does? This we are not going to use basically, but let's understand what is this command. Docker pause, Docker unpause. You can guess this one also. What pause will do? What Docker pause will do? It will pause the process. It will pause the process, which means it is going to make that process into sleeping mode, kind of a sleep mode, pause mode. So if the process is in pause mode, does that process will respond to any request which is going to that process if it is in pause mode? No. So you can make the process pause using Docker pause. Just to give an example, let me show that. Now my containers are running. My process is running, my container is running. Now, if I want to see what is running inside my container, what process is running inside my container, I can use this command, Docker top command. What this Docker top command does, basically, what this Docker top command will show. Don't consider this as a Linux top command. If it is a Linux top command, what it does? What it does, this top command in the Linux? Docker top is different, this top is different. What this top command does? It will show all the process information, resource utilization, system, all those details here. But when it comes to Docker top, what it does? It will list or display top running process of the container. What process is running inside the container? When I execute Docker top command on this container, what process is running inside that container? I can see what process is running in that container. In this Java web app container, if you see, is my Tomcat process is running inside that container? Yes. Now the process is running. Now am I able to access that application within the cluster or outside, within Docker or outside Docker? Within Docker, can I use this container IP address also if required? Container IP and container port, my application context. Let me use /. Again, within Docker, I can use container IP and container port. Outside Docker, can I use that whatever host port which is mapped for that container? I think this is mapped for that container 7070. That system IP 7070, my application context. If the port is opened, that 7070 port is opened, I should be able to access. If that port is opened, 7070 port. Let me see in that server security group. Is that port is open 7070? I think no. So let me open. Let me open that 7070. Now with that, I should be able to access that system. I am able to access. Now, if the process is stopped, which means your container is stopped, that can be, you have stopped the process intentionally, or something went wrong with your container, that container is in stopped state. Will you able to access that application if your container is in stopped state? If your container is in stopped state, you are intentionally stopping the container, or let's consider something went wrong with your container. Inside the container, it is running out of CPU, running out of memory, or something happened. The Java process, the Tomcat process is stopped inside the container. In that case, does your container goes to exited state? If something went wrong with your container process, the container go to exited state, stopped state. I'm intentionally stopping the container. Will I able to access that application now? Whether it's outside. One second. I think I stopped a different one. Let me stop this one. Now I stop that container. Now am I able to access that outside the cluster or inside the cluster? Inside the cluster or outside, sorry, inside the Docker machine or outside the Docker machine? Not cluster. Forget about the term cluster. The cluster will come when we discuss about Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. So we are still not reached there. So forget about the term called cluster. Now within the Docker node or outside the Docker node, am I able to access this application since the container is in stopped state? No. Now if required, can I start that container again? If you see, if I execute Docker top, it is saying that is not running. That container is not running. So let me start that container. The moment I start the container, is that process started inside the container? That Tomcat process? Yes. Now my container is in running state. Now within Docker also, maybe IP is changed. Container IP is changed. That's why I am getting this error. Let me inspect the container. Now. Container IP got changed. So let me use that container IP. Now, am I able to access inside the cluster? Sorry, inside the node? Am I able to access inside this Docker machine? Yes. And outside also now, do you see? Am I able to access again? Yes. Now, the way we have a Docker stop, Docker kill, similarly, there is a command called Docker pause. Docker pause. So what this pause command is doing? Now container, it is in running state. But what happened? It is running, but it is paused. Now, if the container is in the pause state, the process is in pause state. Now, any request to that application, to that process, will it respond? Now I am trying to access that application within Docker or outside Docker. Will I get any response? Because that process is in paused. Am I going to get response outside or inside? No. So this is going to pause the process. Now if I want to unpause, can I do this Docker unpause command? But these commands we will not at all use. But I thought of explaining this one also. Now container is in unpaused state. Now will I able to access inside Docker and outside Docker also? Do you see already? Yes. These are the some commands. Now this command I already explained what this Docker top command does. It is going to display the top running process inside the container. So Docker top. If I say something like this, is it going to show the process which is running inside the container? Process details of inside the container? Yes. Now, let's try to understand very important commands. How to troubleshoot if your application is not accessible and that application is running as container. Troubleshooting is very, very important, right? At the end of the day, you might be deploying lot of applications, either manually or using pipelines you are deploying. So if that application is not accessible, does developer will come to you and maybe they will come to you directly, or they may raise a ticket. Using some ticketing tools like Jira, and they will raise a ticket saying that I deployed that application, but that application I am not able to access from so and so system or so and so location. Now, how to troubleshoot if that application is running as a container? First and foremost thing, before you check anything, first do I need to check first whether the container is running or not? First, check if container is running or not. Guys, one more thing here. If this to happen, first, does that the server should be up and running, and within that server, does this Docker daemon, this Docker process, or Docker daemon process also should be up and running, right? If the Docker daemon process is stopped, does your containers will work? Your Docker daemon, that Docker process itself is not running, then it won't work. So first check server should be up and running, and Docker also should be up and running. So how can I see whether the Docker process is running or not? Directly in that server, can I use this ps command? In that server, whether my Docker daemon is running or not? So if you see this one, is the Docker daemon, is the Docker process is running? Otherwise, can you see the status also like this? If it is available as a service, sudo service status Docker, Docker status, service name Docker status. Is the Docker daemon is running? Is the Docker service is running? Yes. So server should be up and running. This Docker daemon also should be up and running. Once this is done, can I check whether container is running or not? If that container is running or not, how can I check whether that container is running or not? Can I use command like docker ps or docker container ls? If it is in stopped state, I can use -a. If required, if it is in stopped state, can I execute docker start command to start the container? Yes. Now that is running, then check if you are able to access that application or not. Maybe from outside, forget about inside, from outside. Suppose this is my laptop or some other system. From this system, if I want to access, can I use that system IP address and port, whatever port I have mapped? I can use that system IP, If it is a different network, will I able to access using private IP of this server? It is nothing to do with the Docker again. It's nothing to do with the Docker again. Will I able to access like this from outside different machine using that private IP address of that server? No. Is it anything to do with the Docker, guys? This one? No. This is your server networking. So if you want to access using private IP of that server, then does your system also should be part of same network? Maybe you can use VPN concepts over there. If you are part of the same network, then you can access. But that is completely out of Docker. Now, if I am using public IP, if that server has a public IP, then I can access like this. If this is not reachable, then do I need to check whether that port is opened or not? Again, it is nothing to do with the Docker again. Do I need to check whether that port, that firewall is opened or not? Suppose, can I do something like this? Forget about that accessing application. Can I do the network troubleshooting using telnet commands? Something like this, whether I can reach this server on that port, host port. Suppose you are getting connection timed out like that. On 7070, that host port. Even though your container is running here, it is up and running, and in 7070, you can see whether that port is listening or not in this server. How can I see whether that port is listening or not in that server, that host port? Can I use netstat command here in this server? If netstat is not there, let me install netstat, that is in NetTools. Yes, this troubleshooting is very, very important. If you know all the concept, you can do the troubleshooting and fix the problems. Now, is that 7070 is listening in that server? The server which I am using here, the public IP of that server which I am using, in that server is 7070 is listening. And if I am not able to reach that server, if I say connection timed out like that, then what could be the problem? From this machine, I am not able to access, even though I am using public IP 7070, I am not able to reach. Then is it something to do with the networking and firewalls? It's something to do with network and firewall. If you are not able to access from outside, can I check whether inside this node, inside this Docker server, whether I can access or not? Inside this server, whether I can access or not. If it is not able to access, I can test locally. In this machine, can I use local host also? Like this is Linux machine, there is no browser. localhost that 7070, that 7070, that container port, localhost 7070. Can I use that application context like this? Because this is a Linux machine. Can I use any browser here? Do I have any browser in this machine where I can open this one in the browser in this machine? No, right? So that's why I'm using curl. Now, can I test whether I can access like this locally using localhost? If I'm able to access using locally here, if I'm not able to access from different machine, that can be my laptop or that can be any other server like this, then is it anything to do with the Docker or it is something to do with the networking and firewalls? It's might be networking problem. That can be a security group firewall or there is no route. Let's say this is in different VPC, this is in different VPC. Now this is private server, this is also private server, but to two different VPCs. Even though you open the port, even though you open a port 7070 port, but still from this machine you are not able to access. Then what could be the issue? Do we have a route from this system? Do we have a route to this system? Because this is in different VPC. Let's consider this is in different VPC. You are using private IP. So in that case, if this is in different VPC, this is in different VPC, does local route work? Because the CIDR ranges are different. In that case, do I need to make sure there is a peering between this server and this server if it is a private servers? So can I do kind of a network testing by going inside this node using telnet or curl whether I can reach that IP and so on so port? Forget about application. Forget about application. Before you reaching that application, before you reach that process, there should be a network between the source and the destination. So if I'm accessing from this system, can I call this as a source? Can I call this as a destination? Container is just one process. Container is also one process. SSH is also one process. Like that, if you want to access that process, any process which is running in that server, do we need to have a networking first between the source and destination? Yes. So you can test locally like this. If it is working locally, you can do the troubleshooting on the network. If there is no network between that source and destination, can you contact networking team? If the separate team who is managing networking firewalls and all these things, can you request networking team to open a firewall from so and so source to so and so destination and so and so port also? You have to define from which source, which destination you want to reach, what is the source IP, what is the destination IP, and what is the port in this server you want to reach. If you provide all those details to the networking team, if there is a separate networking team, will they open a firewall? Will they add a routes also if there is no routes for those that source and destination? Yes. But if you are part of networking team, do you need to understand what is this route, what is this firewall, how to add routes, how to do the peerings, all those things? Yes. So that is how it works. Now, am I able to access locally? If I am not able to access remotely, locally in the sense from same machine, remotely in the sense, what is the meaning of remotely or remote machine? From a different machine, from a different machine. That remote machine can be same network or different network also. I'm just saying remote machine. That remote machine can be in the same network, same VPC, or it can be different VPC, different network. Now, I am able to access this locally. Even though let's consider you are not able to access locally, then can I go inside the container and check? The way I am checking in the server, can I go inside this container and do some verifications? Can I go inside this container also and do some verifications? If required, can I execute commands on the container also? If required, can I execute some commands on the container also? Yes. How can I execute commands on the container? We can execute commands on the container using this command, docker exec container id or name. Your command, whatever command you want to execute. Suppose I want to execute some command. This command can be anything. This command can be anything like this ls command, like pwd command, like this command also. So if I use this docker exec, this command, so if this command will be executed on which one? Is this command is going to be executed in the server, or is this command is going to be executed on the container? If I use docker exec, your container id or name like this in the container. Now, even not able to access locally also, can I execute some commands and see something like this docker exec, your container id, something like this. This ls is one command. Is that command is getting executed on this container and it is showing the output? So what is this? These are list of files and directories in your current directory in the server, or this is in the current directory in the container. These files, is it part of current working directory in the server, or is it part of current working directory of the container? It is current working directory of the container. If you see, what is this directory structure? You are already familiar with this directory structure. It's a Tomcat directory structure. But how come this Tomcat directory structure, how come this Tomcat directory, Tomcat related is there inside the container? Because is this we got from the image, base image, Tomcat image. Now within this web apps folder, can I see whether I have my application or not by executing like this docker exec, that container ls, that web apps folder? Do I have that application war file? Is it extracted and deployed? You may have a question, sir, how come this war file is part of my container, that web apps folder? I never copied this war file to the container directly. How come this is part of that container? Because while creating a image, did we copy that war file with the help of docker file? With the help of docker file, did we copy that source code to the image? Now, if this is not part of your container, suppose this is not there, will you get a response if you access like this? If you access like this, will you get a response if this is not part of your container? No. You can check like this. Any other command, not only that ls, if required, can I execute docker exec, that container id or name, something like this also? If you see, is the Tomcat process running in the container? Now I executed this one. So is it showing that one also as one command, one process? This one, ps-ef, I executed on this one. Is it showing that one also? No? Like this? Now, is this process running inside my container now? Yes. Like this, any command you can execute, but does this library should be part of your container image? Suppose if I execute something like this, netstat, is this library will be part of your container? Now will I get unknown message or unknown command like this? Because as I already told, it's a container. Container should be lightweight. Does container will have all the libraries? Whatever is not required for your application to run? No. So whatever you can execute any command, but is that command should be, is that library or is that command or is that software should be part of that container? Otherwise, if that command is not part of that container, that software or library is not part of the container, does that command will work like this? If I execute netstat, is it working? No. So you can execute any command, but does that library, does that command should be part of your container? Yes. Otherwise, you will not able to execute like this. Now, if required, can I go inside the container? I don't want to execute commands from like this. If required, can I go inside the container shell? Yes. For that one, you can go inside the container shell by executing this command. Something like this. Docker exec only -it. What is this -it stands for? Interactive terminal. Interactive terminal. Interactive terminal. This container ID or name. Then can I do like this? I am executing bin bash command. This bash command interactively. I am executing interactively. So will I get into the bash shell of this container if I execute like this? Will I get into the bash shell of that container if I execute like this? Guys, sometimes in the interview they'll ask, can we SSH to the container? SSH? No. You cannot SSH to the container because your container is not a system. Does your container will have SSH process, SSH software running, all those things? No. It is just a normal container. So if I want to get inside the container shell, can I go to that server and get inside that container shell? I can SSH to this server. From here, can I get into this container shell by executing docker exec-it, this container ID or name, then like this, bin/bash or bash directly, bash or /bin/bash, like this. Suppose this container doesn't have a bash shell, you have a SSH shell. In that case, does this command will throw error? The way we got that error, not found in path? Yes. If that is not having a bash, if that container is having a sh, in that case, can I use sh if it is throwing error when I'm using bash? Yes. So let me try with bash. Interactively, I am executing this bash command. Now, where I am in, what is this? What is this? User local tomcat, what is this? This is the present working directory of this container. So am I inside the container shell, container bash now? Now here, can I execute some commands and troubleshoot whether I can access locally within the within container? Now I am inside the container. This local host, will it refers to the server, this server, or this refers to the container? Because now I am inside the container. This local host refers to the container, not server. Now, on which port it is running? Container port, because now I am inside the container port. So 70, not 7070, what is my container port? 8080. Now can I check like this within the container also? If I have a curl software, if I have a curl package or curl library within this container, I can check. So Am I able to access that application locally within container also? Yes. So can I troubleshoot using all these ways? Whatever I have explained, you can execute from outside, inside, all these things, whether you can check, you can go inside the container and troubleshoot like this. You can check whether the process is running or not like this. Is your process is running? If you see here, this process, PID1, PID1, process ID1. This is the actual process, main process of your container. Now, why this is showing here? Why this is showing here? Because I executed this command. And why this is showing? Because did I executed that command interactively and came inside that container? Yes. But typically, if I don't come inside this container, typically how many process will be running in the container? If I don't come inside this container, typically how many process? Only one process, this process. Now, I don't have netstat because it's a container. Does all these commands will work, guys? Service status, service Tomcat status, systemctl commands like this, all these will work here. Because this is not a full-blown operating system. Does container will have complete operating system, as I already told? No. It will have a bare minimal libraries. Now this systemctl, service commands, all these things will not work because it's a bare minimal libraries, whatever is required to run your software, your application. Do I need all these things to run my application, my software, like service related, systemctl related, that netstat, curl, all those things? Not required. If I have everything like this, does it become heavyweight? Does container become a heavyweight again? Yes. So that's why we should not have all these things unnecessarily. If required, if I have internet access in this server, not I am saying in the container, because container is running in the server, if I have internet access in that server, if required, if there is a package manager library also part of this one, then if required, can I install required softwares? If this package manager is part of this container, then if the package manager, this library is also not part of this container, then does this apt command will work or whatever that package library? No. Now, if required, I can do like this for troubleshooting. For troubleshooting, I can install some packages inside my container. Inside my container, I can install some packages for troubleshooting. Suppose I want to see whether on which port that the process is running. So I don't have netstat command inside the container. So inside the container on which port that process is running, I want to see. I am installing this nettools library, nettools library. Now using nettools, I can see that netstat command, that netstat, there is a typo, netstat. In which library that nettools is there? I'm not sure. Last time we installed. Is it nettools? In which one? One second. Netstat. Netstat is not there. Nettools only. So that is, I think, nettools only. But let's see. Nettools. Let me use that NetTools only. Net-tools. Yeah. Guys, this TULNP or TUNLP, this doesn't make any sense. These are all options. Okay. So somehow that netstat command is not working. Okay, you can leave that. Fine. So like this, if required, can I go inside the container and troubleshoot whether it is working locally within the container or not? Yes. Now, can I see the logs of my Tomcat within this container? Can I see the logs of my Tomcat cat logs folder, that Catalina, that whatever log file I want to see? Can I see something like this and what is happening inside the container? If I want to come outside of that container again, what needs to be typed over there? If I want to come out of that container shell, what needs to be typed? Exit. So this way, can I go inside the container and troubleshoot? Can I execute some commands outside on that container? Can I go inside also using docker exec-it? Yes. Then I can check the logs also using this command. What this docker logs command does? What this docker logs command does? I can execute docker logs, this container ID or name. What this docker logs command does? It will print the logs of that container. It will print the logs of that container. Suppose if I execute like this, docker logs, this container or any other container. Is it printing some logs of that container? What is happening in that container process? Am I able to see docker logs? Now what this docker logs does? So this docker logs will display whatever has been sent to std out and std error by the process which is running inside a container. So your process is sending something to std out, std error. Guys, if you use this echo also, is it going to send something to std out of that process? Standard output. What is that std out stands for? Standard output. You are doing something like this, echo. Will it be sending to that std out standard output? If there is any error, then will it be sent to std error, standard output? So whatever has been sent to std out and std error by your process, will it be displayed when I execute docker logs command? I can see the logs of the container using docker logs. Now let's consider application login also. Anyone from development background here? That can be Java, .NET, Python or anything. Application also, there is a logging concept. Application logs. What is the meaning of application logs? As a developer, does developers also will use some log framework to print the logs of application? What is happening inside that application code? Developers can use application logs, application logging frameworks. Just to make it simple, you are already familiar with shell script. You want to know what is happening inside your shell script. What do you do, guys, in your shell script? You want to know what is happening inside your shell script. Are you going to use some kind of a echo statements in your shell script? Are you going to use some kind of a echo statements in your shell script? Whether this condition is satisfied, this loop is getting executed, this variable is going to be used. Echo statement. Now you are writing some shell script. You want to know what is happening inside that shell script when that is getting executed. Which condition is satisfied, which block is getting executed, what variable is being used. Can you use echo statements in your shell scripts so that it will make it easy for you to troubleshoot where it went wrong when that script is getting executed? Similarly, developers has written the source code. While applications being used, what is happening inside your source code? Which class is getting executed, which method is getting executed, what errors has happened while that method, that class is getting executed. If they want to know, does application teams also will use some kind of a log mechanism, logging in the application code? Yes. So anyone heard about log4j? Just a name, log4j. It's a log framework. It's a log framework, logging framework. So who will use this log4j? Developers. Developers will use this log4j in their applications to do the logging, application logging. It's equivalent to your echo statements, guys. It's equivalent to echo statements. Just to make things better, let me show you this source code. Let me show some application where loggers are being used. Let me take this application. Now this is source code. Now the developers, they were using that log4j also, as a dependencies in their code. If you see something related to logging, log4j related stuff, and in their source code, the Java code, if you see, they can write some log messages like this. So using that log4j, classes, they are doing something like this: logger.debug. This method is getting executed. This method is executed with this value. This is the value I am getting from. This is the value I am getting from UI or the caller of this method, and I can print this method is getting executed with this value. If there are any exceptions or errors occurred, can I log those errors or exceptions also in the source code as a developer? It is nothing to do with the DevOps engineer here, because this is a source code. Who will write all these things? Who will write all these things? Who will write all these things? Developer. So does developer can use some log framework so that it will be easy for them to troubleshoot application if something is wrong with the application, if there are some issues, there are some defects in the application? Does these loggers will help to troubleshoot where request is failed, what method it has failed, what reason it has failed? So they are going to use these log frameworks. So in this log frameworks also, there are different appenders like console appender, file appender, like this. So if it is configured with the console appender, is it equivalent to echo statements? Is this will be sent to the std out, std error of that process? This logger.debug, if they are using console appender, it is equivalent to std out and std error. So can I see these things also in my logs of that container if this application is running as a container? Let me show that. Now if you see here itself, can I see that here this class, this method is getting executed, this class, this method is getting executed, this class, this method is getting executed. When I am trying to access this application, Request is going to that container. The code is processing that request and giving this response. Is that application is code is processing that request and giving this response? Yes. So can I see those logs when I execute Docker logs? Successfully it has completed the request. This method is getting executed. This something like this. If there are any errors, exceptions like 500 internal errors, if the application team is properly handling the exceptions and logging those exceptions, can I see those exceptions, errors in these logs also? If application team is properly logging those errors and exceptions, can I see if I execute Docker logs, that application logs also? If I am using Docker logs, that container. So this way, will I able to troubleshoot what is happening inside my application when we are accessing that application using Docker logs? Yes. That is also, it will display Docker logs. Now we have some option with the Docker logs here. Docker logs -tail 10 like this. What this does when I execute Docker logs -tail 10 like this, what it does? It will just display last 10 lines. It is just going to display last 10 lines. If you see, is it displaying just last 10 lines of that container logs? Yes. Now, similarly, the way we have a tail -tail 10, there is one more option called -f. What is this -f? Here, floating logs. Will it keep appending here the live logs? Now, let me execute Docker logs -f. Maybe you can use -tail also like this. Now it is displaying last 10 lines. Now I am accessing my application. I am accessing application. Is it going to append whatever is going to happen, whatever logs is being sent now when I access this application? Will it keep rolling, keep appending now if I try to access this application? Now do you see, is it keep rolling, keep appending what is happening when I'm accessing this one? Now, can I see what is happening when I'm accessing this application? Can I see what is happening inside the container? Logs. But does developer has to use log4j and some logging framework? If the developer don't log anything, will I able to see these things when I am accessing this one? If developer is not writing any logs, we cannot see anything. But developers will write all these log statements. Developer can write all these log statements. Okay, so that is how. Now, if I want to come out of this floating logs, what needs to be typed? Control C. Control C. I'll come out of that floating logs. So is everyone clear what is logs? How to troubleshoot using all these options, whatever I discussed, right? Check the container is running or not. Check if a container is running or not. If you are able to access locally or not. If you are not able to access remotely, check network. If issue with container, go inside the container and verify. If there are any 500 errors, internal server errors. If there are any internal server errors, if that internal server error is related to infrastructure, maybe database is down, application is running, application is trying to connect to the database and database is down, or there is no network between your Docker server and database server. If it is related to infrastructure, that 500 error is related to infrastructure, then does developer will contact DevOps team, that operations team, to make sure that is working, network or database. If that 500 error is related to application itself, if the 500 is related to application itself, it is not related to infrastructure, then who is going to work on that errors, that application errors? If that 500 errors are because of application itself, the code is itself is wrong, the application code itself is wrong, then developer will work. So this way, does developers and the DevOps engineers collaboratively work, and can they use the Docker to deploy their applications and run their applications if required? Yes. So is everyone clear? All these commands, what is Docker exec, what is Docker logs, what is Docker top, all these things. Troubleshooting is very, very important, because in our day-to-day activities, are you going to get lot of issues? Our day-to-day life, we are going to get lot of issues. That can be application issue, that can be your pipeline issue. Your pipelines also, your Jenkins also, pipelines also have some issues. Maybe Jenkins server is running out of CPU or memory. Jenkins process may not work. If Jenkins process is not working, do you need to make sure the Jenkins server is up and running, and Jenkins server has enough CPU, enough memory, and enough storage also? Yes. Jenkins is working fine yesterday, but today it is not working. Is that possible? Jenkins is working fine yesterday, today it is not working. Is that possible? Yes, because it might be for many reasons. It might be for many reasons. It can be memory issue, it can be network issue, it can be storage issue. So troubleshooting is also very, very important. Pipelines also, and also your applications also. Now there is a one more command which we can use, is Docker stats. Docker stats, container ID or name. What this Docker stat command does? What this Docker stat command does? This Docker stat command display statistics of that container. Statistics of that container. What is the meaning of statistics? It will display CPU, memory, network IO of the container. Something like this. I have a container. Let's say Docker stats, this container ID or name. Now, is it displaying the CPU utilization of that container, memory utilization of that container, network IO, input output operations per second per GB, network? So is it displaying the statistics of that container? What is the current CPU utilization of that container process? That container process, how much CPU is used by that container as of now? 0.20, 0.10, something like that. And how much memory is used currently by that container? If you see how much memory, approximately 130 MB. So it is saying out of 968, it is using 198. So what is this 968? What is this 968? If you remember, while creating a container, did I mention any limits for my container? How much CPU, how much memory that container has to use? Did I set any limits? No. So then what is this limit? Because I never set this limit, how much it can use. This is as of now server limit. What is my current server capacity? What is my server current capacity? What is my system capacity? 1 GB. So out of 1 GB, how much it is using as of now? How much it is using as of now? 130. Out of this much, it is using 130. But do you think still this container can use again remaining 800 MB of memory? Do you think it can use still 800 MB of memory? No, because do you have other process running inside that system? Maybe another container or maybe directly some process which is running in the server also. Is that process also taking some CPU and memory? It is just saying this much is there, out of that it is using this much, which means can it utilize till this much 968 MB? No, because other process is taking some CPU and some memory. If required, can I limit my container CPU and CPU and memory also while creating a container? If required, can I set the limits how much CPU that container can take, how much memory that container can take? Yes. While creating a container, you can use that option. What is that option? The way we used hyphen name, container name, -p, port mapping, the way you have done all these things. If required, can I use some other options like -CPUs or -C in the short form, or -CPUs, something like this. 0.5. Guys, CPUs, one core CPU equals to 1000 millicores. 1000 millicore. So one core CPU is equals to 1000 millicore. If I say something like this, 0.5, out of one core, 0.5 is what? If I just say 0.5, half core, half millicore. That is half millicore is equals to what? 0.5 is equals to how many millicores? 500. So can I say something like this also if required? 500 small m. 500 small m. If required, can I define like this also, half millicore or 250 millicore like this also? Yes. Otherwise, I can say 0.25 also. Now, even though server has one core, if I set the limit like this, does container can utilize the complete resources available in the system? If I set like this, no. Container can utilize up to only 200 millicores of CPU. Now, if required, can I set memory also like this? -, memory. Memory is nothing but your RAM. Can I say memory also like this? 256 MI. What is the meaning of MI? Capital M-I. Megabytes. If it is gigabytes, can I give something like this? GI, 1 GI, 2 GI, 3 GI, like this? Now I can give like this also. Now if this I have done while creating a container, can I see how much is utilized out of whatever limit I have set? Suppose if I have set limit as 256 MI, can I see here 256 and 130 here like this, the current? Yes. Now let me show that. Guys, can I do these things for existing container? Container is already created. Can I do this CPU allocation, memory allocation for existing containers? No. So can I delete and do that? Can I delete that container and do that? Docker run -d -name -p -CPUs. I can say something like this, -memory, something like this, 256 MI. Just to give an example, that image. Now, Docker is internally going to use what concept to manage the resources for this container? As I already told when we discussed about Docker, Docker is going to use what concept in the background to control the resources of this process? In the background, it is going to use C groups, control groups. control groups. Is it going to use that C groups concept to manage resources for a process level within that system? Yes. Now, let me create this. Now, if I see the container statistics, Docker stats, this container, let's see. Now, can I see that limit as 256 MB? Now CPU utilization 25%. 25% of what? 25% of this 0.25, 250 millicore. Now this memory is 50% utilized out of 256. Now let's consider you have set the limits like this. There is a lot of load on your container, lot of load on your application. So if it is almost out of memory, what will happen to the process which is running inside the container? There is a lot of load on this application, this container. It has almost reached 80%. Then what will happen? If your container is running out of memory, what will happen? If your container is running out of CPU, what will happen? Not only just container is nothing but a process. Container is nothing but a process. If your process is running out of CPU, what will happen? If your process is running out of memory, what will happen? These type of questions also you will get in the interview. Container is nothing but process. What will happen to the process if it is running out of memory, if it is running out of CPU? Any guess? What will happen? If it is running out of CPU, what will happen? If it is running out of CPU, what will happen? It will hung. Your process, your application will hung, which means very slow response. Very slow response. In that case, can I see whether it is running out of CPU, whether it is running out of memory by executing this Docker stats command? It will become very slow. I can see this Docker stats command and verify. If it is running out of memory, what will happen, guys? If it is running out of memory, what will happen? Your process will be stopped, terminated. Out of memory, OOM, out of memory, process will be stopped, terminated. Now, if you see, it is taking minimum 132 MB. Now, if I create a container with 100 MB allocation, does your process will come? Let me delete this container. It was taking almost, even though there is no load, almost it is taking 130 MB. Now, if I try to create my container by limiting just 120 MB, let's say, maybe 128 MB, let's say, I'm limiting this much. Now, container, if you see, it is running. It is running. It is running. Now, if I see the Docker top command now, if I see the Docker top command on that one, sorry, stats command on that one, this container. Now, almost how much it is using memory? How much memory? Almost percentage out of 128, 120. If there is a lot of load on this application, does it will be able to sustain? If there is a lot of load on this application, now do you see? Now do you see? Is it already encountered a issue? Is it already encountered a issue now? If you see, it's already encountered a issue. Why that is not running now? If you see why it is in exited state, why it is in exited state, container is stopped, why it is in exited state? Because of out of memory, out of memory. So now if you see Docker logs, let me see the logs of that container. So that out of memory, I cannot see here because that is nothing to do with application. That is nothing to do with application. It is not able to see. We are not able to see that error. It is memory is different, storage is different, guys. Don't get confused. Krishna Prasad is saying storage. Is it running out of storage? Is it running out of memory? Storage is different, memory is different. So it is running out of memory, not storage. Right? Now that container is stopped. Even though I start this container, will it work? It will work for some time. It will work for some time. If lot of people start accessing that application again, will it again terminated? So using this docker stats command, can I see what is the current utilization of my CPU of that container, memory of that container like this? Can I increase the capacity if it is going like that? Yes. Is everyone clear what is the use of this docker stats command? At the same time, I explained these type of issues also. Now this is docker stats command. So this docker stats, just a docker stat command, nothing here. If you see here, docker stat command, docker stats, that container ID or name. So I can use this docker stat command, stats, like this. Now, similarly, we have a few more commands. I wanted to discuss those commands also. Is it possible for me to rename the container? Suppose I created a container. Let me remove the container. Let me remove the container. Now I created a container, but I have not given a name. I have not given a name. I think someone was asking, sir, can I use this option with the Docker create also? This CPU, memory, all these options? Yes, guys. You can use with the Docker create also, these options. Now let's say I'm not giving a name for container. I'm not giving a name for container. So let me remove these things because I demonstrated. I don't want to use these things now. Now I'm creating a container. I'm not giving a name. Is Docker has assigned some random name, fancy name? If you see, the name we got is Vigilant Euclid, some random names. So if required, can I rename my container? Yes. What is the command for rename? Docker rename only. Docker rename. You can use this container ID or this old name. You can use this container ID or this old name. Can I give some meaningful name like this? Now if you see, is my container is renamed with that name whatever I have used here? This is container rename. Now we have a few more commands. Docker cp. Docker cp command. What is this Docker cp? So using Docker cp, what we can do? We can copy files or folders from container to system or system to container, vice versa. Using Docker cp, very confused questions you will get in the Docker interview, guys. Very confusing questions. Interviewers will ask a lot of confused questions. So they will ask, what is Docker cp? Or they may ask, what is difference between Docker cp and copy? Docker cp and copy. These type of very confusing questions. Unless until you practice, unless until you attend all the sessions, you cannot answer all these things. So what is difference between Docker CP and copy? So using Docker CP, we can copy files or folders from container to the system or system to the container. What about this copy? We already used this copy somewhere. What about this copy? So where did we use this copy? What is the purpose of this copy? COPY, copy. So copy is, don't say single word, copy, Docker file. No one will understand what is the meaning of that one in the interview. Don't say in a single word answer, copy, Docker file. What interview will understand? Copy, Docker file. Don't say in a single words in the interview, elaborate more. Elaborate more. At least you should be able to explain 1 minute on this one or more than 1 minute also. Don't say copy in Docker file. So copy is what? Copy is a instruction in Docker file. Copy can be used to copy again files and folders. To what? To what? We can use this copy to use copy files or folders again. To what? To what we can copy? To image. To image. While creating image. While creating an image, using this copy instruction, we can copy files or folders to the image. What about this Docker CP? This Docker CP also we can use to copy files or folders, but this Docker CP will copy files or folders to what? To the container, from the system, or system to the container, vice versa. Very confused questions. Now, suppose I have one file. Suppose I have one file inside this container. Let's say I want this log files. I want this log file to be shared with some developer. I have this log file inside my container. Some developer is asking me to share this file. Can I get that file out of that container to this system? Can I get that file, the file from that container to the system using Docker CP command? So Docker CP source and destination. Source is my container name. Within my container, do I need to give complete path of this folder? Complete path of this folder. So let me get that present working directory. So this is my present working directory. Within that present working directory, do I have a folder called logs? Within that logs, I have this file. So can I do something like this? Docker CP source, this container, this folder. Within that folder, if I need this file, this Catalina log file, this is source. Your container IDR name, colon, the path of that file inside the container, destination. If I give directly like this, is it going to copy that file to the current location in the server? The current location in the server? If I directly give like this, yes. Now, can I see that file copied from container to the current location in the server? Can I see that file here? Yes. If required, can I copy some file, just some dummy file I am using? Can I copy this file from system to the container also if required? This file from system to the container. How? Same, Docker CP only, but reverse. So this is destination. This is my source. This is my destination. Now, this file which is there in the system, will it be copied to this container in this location. Now, if I see Docker exec now, Docker exec, that container, that ls of that this folder, ls of that folder, can I see that file, test.txt file, which is copied? Yes. Is everyone clear what is Docker CP and what is difference between Docker CP and copy? Now one more thing, whatever changes has happened in the container directly, does those changes will be available if the container is deleted and recreated? Whatever file system changes has happened, whatever file system changes has happened, does those changes will be available if the container is deleted and recreated? Whatever file system changes, whatever new softwares you install directly in the container, or any files which got generated inside the container, will it be available if the container is deleted and recreated? In that new container, will you have all those changes, whatever changes has happened inside the container directly in that new container? No. Container file system changes exist as long as the container exists. As long as the container exists. Which means, suppose I installed some software directly inside the container. I went inside the container, I have installed some software, or some files got generated inside the container. Is that changes will be available if the container is deleted and recreated? No. But if the container is stopped and started, do we have those changes? The container is not deleted, but the container is stopped. Let's say the container is stopped. And if the container is started again, will I have those changes, whatever I have done directly inside the container? If you see, I will have those changes. That can be any file which is generated directly inside your application. Your application process has generated some files, or you might have installed some softwares going inside the container. If that is deleted and recreated, will I have all those changes? Maybe these log files, whatever has been generated, these log files, or whatever softwares you install directly inside the container, will you have all those things? No. Now, how to retain container changes as image? I want to retain the changes inside my container as an image. How to do that? Or sometimes in the interview they are asking directly one question, what is Docker commit? Directly one question they are asking, what is Docker commit? Otherwise they are asking, I have done some changes inside my container, I want to retain those changes as an image. How can I do that? That we can do using Docker commit. So what the Docker commit will do? So Docker commit, I can use container ID or name and image. I can tag image. If I do like this, Docker commit this container ID or name, I can use this ID or name. I can tag like this, Docker hands-on, something like this. Some tag like this. Now, is this command is going to create a image and tag this image out of this container, out of that container? It is like from server you are creating a AMI. To make it simple, in AWS, did we created a AMI out of the server? Similarly here, from the container we are creating a image. So now whatever changes has been done inside this container, Does those changes will be retained in this image which I'm going to create using Docker commit? Yes. Now, if you see this image, this image size is very high, 506, compared to this image. Using this image, I created a container. Using this image, I created a container. But from this container, again, I created an image. But why there is some additional size? Because is that image which is created out of that container, will it have some additional files? Whatever has been generated in the container, your application process has generated some files. So this way you can retain image from the container. But are you going to follow this process? Which means, are you going to create a container first, then copy your application code, then install your softwares in the container, then are you going to create an image like this? Are you going to do this reverse engineering? No. So always it will be from Docker file to image, image to container. But sometimes in the interview they are asking this type of question directly. What is Docker commit? Or indirectly, is it possible for me to retain my container changes as image? Yes. What is the answer for both? Docker commit. Is everyone clear what is Docker commit? So all these things are container related commands. So today I took most of the time to explain about troubleshooting, because this troubleshooting is very, very important. So I thought of starting Docker file, but that didn't happen because I covered most of the time about this troubleshooting concept. It will be helpful for you. I'll continue tomorrow on the Docker file. So what is Docker file? How to write Docker file? We'll start tomorrow. Actual Docker file we will discuss tomorrow. Thank you guys. Try to practice whatever has been discussed. So Sujay is saying, sir, in yesterday notes, there are multiple times that Docker start command is there. So it is getting confused. Don't blindly run these commands. If you follow my running notes without understanding what is what, it will confuse you only. Understand the concept. So since I am sharing running notes, what you guys are doing, right? You guys are, going to that running notes. You don't know why you are doing this. You are trying to execute all these things one after the other. Is that is expected from my side? No. I am sharing this running notes to make you understand at least what is what. So you guys are what you are doing, maybe you are executing this one. Once that is done, you are executing this one. Don't understand that way. I just gave the command so that you can understand. Don't blindly run all these commands. Understand what is what. Then execute that command. Don't follow that step 1, step 2, do this, step 4, execute this, all these things, guys. Don't learn that way. You will never become a DevOps engineer if you follow that learning step 1. Run this one in first command, run second command as this, run third command as this. That I am demonstrating commands, but based on your requirement to create a containers, you need to use appropriate commands. For troubleshooting, you need to use appropriate commands. Pushing images, you need to use appropriate commands. And also I see some people, yesterday one of the guy posted one question, sir, I am writing a pipeline, I am not able to push the image. I see something like this. Maybe his registry only, something like this. I have saw this guy. Is this correct? I saw command like this. In the pipeline is using Docker push this image tag space dot. Is this command correct? Is this command correct? It is saying error. Clearly it is saying Docker push expects exactly one option or one command. It is throwing error also. So if you blindly copy paste without knowing what is what, then you will not learn anything. So is this required? No, he is using his registry only. He is using his registry only, not because of this one. I am talking about this one. Is this required in Docker push? So it is clearly throwing error. So this Docker push is not required. This dot is not required. And one more thing, guys, try to post any technical issue, any technical discussion in the Skype group. No individual discussions, no individual chats, because it will help others also. You are getting some issue, maybe others also can understand what is the issue. If they already know, they can also reply back saying that you are doing this way, this is wrong, you can do this way. So post in group any technical discussion, not individually. Don't post individually to me, sir, I am getting this error, this error. Post in the group only. I can respond, or others who already know that issue, what is the reason, they can also respond. Okay, thank you guys. I'll continue tomorrow and try to practice whatever has been discussed. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.